There's so many different features that provide crafting materials in Final Fantasy XIV. In today's guide, we're going to cover where different materials come from for crafting recipes. In my last guide, we covered where vendor crafting materials are located, and I highly suggest checking that out as well if you haven't seen it. Link to that is in the description of this video. I also have timestamps in the description. First, we're going to talk about Botanist and Miner. This is the most obvious feature you'll get crafting materials from, but I thought I should at least mention them. Most of your crafting materials come from these two jobs. If you're leveling crafters, I highly suggest leveling Botanist and Miner along with them. It will save you a lot of gil in the long run. Fishers don't actually provide a ton of crafting materials. They mainly provide materials for culinarian and alchemist recipes. I'll be honest, I barely use my fisher. I want to quickly mention that I'm about to talk about Discipline of Land and Discipline of War or Magic retainers. Retainers are a great resource for crafters. I would not be able to live without my retainers. That may sound dramatic, but it's absolutely true. As a crafter, I recommend having a Botanist, Miner, and at least one War or Magic retainer. I know that's 3 retainers in total, and you only get 2 retainers for free. Any additional retainers cost an extra $2 per month per extra retainer. If you don't want to spend extra money on a 3rd retainer, then I suggest having one Discipline of War or Magic. And for your 2nd retainer, you should have a Botanist or a Miner.
Remember, Kupo, retainers are not necessary, but they are just for convenience and extra storage space.
I personally use a lot of retainers because I hoard a lot of materials. A lot. Yeah. Let's talk about Discipline of Land retainers first. You can send out Botanists and Miner retainers every hour to collect materials for you. Keep in mind that you yourself have had to have gathered that material at least once to send your retainer to get it for you. You can check your gathering log to see which items you've collected. They will have a check mark if you've gathered them before. The amount of materials that your retainer brings back depends on 3 things: what level your retainer is, the level of the material, and the rarity of the material. For example, a lower level retainer can obtain 60 shards per venture, but a high level retainer can obtain 100 shards per venture. My favorite part, your retainer can also gather timed node materials. They can't gather a lot of them at once, but it's still nice to be able to just passively send them out each hour to get these materials for you, so you don't have to worry about the node timer yourself. I love using my retainers to passively collect materials, especially on days where I'm focusing more on my combat jobs. Now let's discuss how Discipline of War or Magic retainers contribute crafting materials. You might not think that you need this type of retainer for your crafter, but they are extremely useful, especially for Weaver, Leatherworker, and Alchemists. The materials that War or Magic retainers collect only drop from enemies. They can't be gathered from a Miner or a Botanist, making them, in my opinion, a little irritating to farm yourself. And especially as a Weaver, Leatherworker, or Alchemist, you will need a lot of these materials, so I just make my retainer collect them for me.
It doesn't matter if your retainer is War or Magic, Kupo. They both give the same materials.
You could send these retainers out on hunting ventures every hour. Like I just mentioned when discussing Discipline of War or Magic retainers, there are a lot of important crafting materials that drop from monsters. There's no easy way in-game to know which monsters drop certain materials, so you'll have to do some research to find the farming spots that you need. Like I mentioned in my last crafting guide, I recommend using Gamer Escape. It lists all of the monsters that drop the material you need and their location. Here's Snurble as an example. Snurble. Fun word. We are going to be discussing gardening next, and I know this part sucks for some of you given the terrible state of housing in Final Fantasy XIV, but let's first discuss a few materials you can grow just using flower pots. Because you don't need to own a private estate for that, you can use an apartment or free company room. You can grow elemental shard seeds, obtained from level 1 botanist hidden nodes. You're going to need a lot of shards and crystals for crafting, so try to keep an eye on your crystals and your shards and stay ahead of those. Using regular potting soil, these seeds give you 50 shards each. Using grade 3 shroud topsoil will yield 100 shards each. You can also grow flowers, which are used in alchemist recipes to make corsage hats and gloves. You can find these recipes under Other and then Ornaments in your crafting log. Let's talk about some of the gardening materials used in crafting recipes that require crossbreeding to obtain. If you don't have access to a garden plot, remember that I have timestamps in the description of this video so you can skip ahead if you'd like. Jute is a material needed to craft jute yarn. Jute yarn is required in a lot of rug recipes. There's also a recipe using jute yarn that makes a plush cushion minion. The cushion flattens when you walk over it, which is very fun. There is different mandragora seeds from crossbreeding. There is recipes for stuffed mandragora housing plushies that Weaver can craft. I'm mousing over those seeds in the recipes right now so you can see what the seeds are called.
You can also grow the seeds themselves to receive the minion version, Kupo.
Glazed nut is another crossbred seed that is used in various recipes. You also need a glazed nut along with jute yarn to craft the plush cushion. As you can see in my recipe list, you can make various furniture items, striking dummies, and minions with glazed nuts. The furniture items that require glazed nuts are interactable crafter benches and musical instruments. Now that we've discussed gardening, that leads to our next feature. Curious crop exchange. There is 2 different types of plants, void drakes and aleth lavender, that you can grow and exchange at certain vendors for crafting materials. You can grow these crops in flower pots.
Please note, Kupo, these seeds only take 24 hours to grow.
The materials vary and are pretty random. You can even get some materials that would otherwise only come from old maps, like blue foxhide. You can also get commonly used crafting materials here, so it's worth knowing that this method exists. You can obtain these seeds from company seals, free company credits, or airship voyages. Here's a photo of the vendor locations and airship voyages that these seeds are obtained from. Let's talk about maps. Current maps mainly contain materials for glamour items. They come from the dungeon portals that have a chance to spawn from 8-player maps. If you ever see glamour that has a modern look to it, it's usually a crafted set that requires map materials. These materials usually cost a lot of gil on the market board because they require parties of multiple players to get together and farm them. But we'll touch on the gil aspect of this in another video. Older maps used to have some furniture materials, like exquisite buttons and mariner cotton cloth, but nowadays maps pretty much just drop furniture itself instead of furniture materials. Every Grand Company Quartermaster offers crafting materials in exchange for company seals. If you ever work on a free company workshop project, you'll need a lot of these materials. Otherwise, they're just used in a lot of random recipes. There's a few beast tribes that provide crafting materials in exchange for their beast tribe currency or gil. Let's talk about these one by one, as they all offer something different. If you don't see the items that I see, then that means you need to increase your reputation with that beast tribe. For every beast tribe, each reputation rank offers more items from that vendor. Let's begin with the Realm Reborn beast tribes. Amalja offers metal materials mainly for armor, blacksmith, and goldsmith recipes. A unique material that Amalja sells is mithril ingot, which is used in a lot of crafting recipes. Sylphs, everyone's favorite beast tribe, am I right? Maybe not.
At least there isn't a million side quests to unlock, like my beast tribe, Scupo.
The Sylphic vendor mainly offers cloth materials. The special material they sell is called Sylphic silk, which is used in a few crafting recipes. If you use Weaver, it's important to note that they sell undyed velveteen, which is a very commonly used material in Weaver recipes. The kobolds sell materials mainly used in alchemist recipes. The Shahagan beast tribe mainly offers materials used in culinarian recipes. Ixali is a little more unique than the others. It does not offer the same materials for gil in their currency. Here's a look at the materials that the Ixali tribe offers in exchange for their currency, oak nuts. Most of these materials also come from the Grand Company Quartermasters, but this is another option for buying those materials if you're short on Grand Company seals. Ixali's purchased item category is unique because it offers lumber and branches in exchange for gil. These are mainly used in carpenter recipes. Heavensward Beast tribes don't offer as many materials as the Realm Reborn ones, but they each have a few. Here's a look at the Vanu vendor. They offer a few materials for culinarian and carpenter. The Vath offers a few nuggets and alchemist supplies. The Mughals are a little bit more unique. They sell some materials under the purchased items category for gil. They don't offer the same materials in exchange for their carved Kupa nut currency though. It's worth noting that they sell glass fiber in exchange for 3 carved Kupa nuts, which is used to craft tempered glass, a material used in some higher level furniture and Free Company workshop recipes. Stormblood's beast tribes don't really offer much in exchange for crafting materials, even the Namazu, who are Discipline of Land and Hand tribes. The only one that had some materials on them was the Kojin, who offer some fish, cloth, and leather. That brings us to Shadowbringers now. The Pixies do not offer any crafting materials. The Katari offer aged oak log, which currently is only in one crafting recipe, the Runkin rocking chair. It's totally worth it though, that chair is cute as hell. The dwarves just have one material, Slither Sand. Slither Sand is used to craft new item level 490 Discipline of Hand and Land gear, accessories, and tools. Extreme Trials have a chance to drop crafting materials for shiny weapons, barding, and furniture. A lot of the Chocobo bardings come from crafting, and they usually require materials from an extreme primal. Primals usually get shiny weapon versions of the original weapons that they drop. Crafters can make these shiny weapons with a material that has a chance to drop from the trial. A lot of trials also usually have a furniture item that uses the same material as the shiny weapons. Another obvious place that crafting mats come from is crafting scripts. Most of the materials are used for crafting gear for all of the disciplines. However, there are also some random materials like wool top, flannel, and New World macaron that are used to craft glamour and furniture items. These items used to be a drop from old maps, but luckily they were added as crafter scripts currency a while back so you can obtain them easier. There's 2 other features that I want to mention, but I'm not going to go into much detail about because they don't drop a lot of crafting materials, and these materials might be difficult for some players to get, and that is from Free Company voyages and raids. Voyages can provide materials for some glamour and furniture items, while raids usually provide materials for furniture items. But yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of features that provide crafting materials. I wouldn't be surprised if I missed something, honestly. I hope this helps guide some of you. I know that the amount of different crafting materials in Final Fantasy XIV can be overwhelming, especially if you're starting crafting now. But don't fear, I am here to guide you on your crafting journey. There is a lot of information to pack into this video, so if you'd like me to go into more detail on anything, just let me know in the comments. I have more guide videos in the works, including a guild making guide and a Discipline of Hand and Land leveling guide, as well as some other goodies. So please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss those videos. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!